Okay, this time I'm going to look at the same IEP, but I'm going to talk about the the rubric that you have for looking at them. So on this, let's look at item T20. Does the IEP include the student's preferences or interests? If I toggle back there to the, I'm toggling back to the IEP, and I look at their strengths, interests, preferences, you can see that I included those, so I would mark yes right here. Item T21A, does the IEP document that the post-secondary area of living has been sufficiently assessed and information used as basis of transition planning? I'm going to go up here to this second little tab, and that's where you look through here, the assessment for living. So I would mark yes, and then learning and working were yes, and they were right underneath there. Boom, boom. Now I want to point out here that it said, besides yes, if I would have marked no, it would have said no, there's no specific data listed, or the source or method of data collection is missing. That was the transition assessments that I listed there. Or the data is insufficient to determine that it had been assessed. So if I had very little here that really didn't mean much of anything, I would have to say no. Or that it was limited to just a student interview. Remember when I said that Iowa does not just want an interview done. If you do an interview, you have to do one more thing. I automatically do 2 transition assessments, and then if I want to do an interview too, I can, but typically the interview would just include things I didn't feel that got answered in the assessments that I chose. Okay, so those, I'm going to scroll down here because I'm going to go to the next part, the 22A, B, and C, where it says, is there a post-secondary expectation of living, learning, working that projects beyond high school, is consistent with the data that we had, and it's observable? I'm going to say yes to mine, but if I would say no, the area is not stated as an observable behavior, or it's not addressed, or it's addressed vaguely, or it's inconsistent with the data that we collected up here. Now, up at the top. If up here we say that she's unable to use the public bus system to go to the mall or library and she can't read the signs, and then down here I say she should be able to live independently after high school with no other information that addressed that transition data assessment, that transition assessment data, it'd be kind of confusing because how is she going to live independently if she can't get somewhere? She should be able to live independently, but she needs to learn those things first. She's very good as far as inside the home stuff, but there's more to living independently than just living inside the home. Okay, so that was, I'm going to pause that just for 1 second. I moved over to the next one, T23A. This is the second, it's the second side of that thing. I've listed in your folder as 2 documents, but I explained there were 2. Okay, so does the course of study identify the overall number of credits, the class subject areas, and other requirements for graduation? I'm going to go down here on my page B and say, yep, there they are. Here's the subjects, here's the credits you have to have, and those are in there, so I would click yes. Does it identify the student's current status with regards to the graduation requirements and what they have to graduate? Yes, I did. I said what they have so far in their first semester and what they still need to graduate. So I would click yes. Does the course of study project other courses and activity, including linkages specific to the student? Down here, I'm going to slide down here. Here's some other things that the student needs to take. She wants jewelry design. She said that. She also needs instruction in traffic signs and symbols during research class, and she's got a resource class, and she's going to work on navigating the town using public transportation as part of her work experience courses as she continues through school. So I'm going to say yes. Do the annual goals represent relevant skills or behaviors which are well aligned with the transition assessment information? So remember to get to the goals, I'm sliding up. I click on goals. Here was her goal when given a grade level reading probe. She's going to answer reading comprehension questions over the passage with 80% accuracy. 80% accuracy is considered mastery in most schools unless you have a pretty high school. It could be lower in some schools too, so I don't want to lock you into 80%. But that was her goal for reading comprehension. So I click yes here. Are there other support services or activities for every need in the PLAP, which is in the page B transition stuff, as a priority for this year? So I'm going to go back over here and click on page F. That's where services and activities are. And remember, I put in here some specially designed instruction for her. One, for her reading strategies class to work on research-based comprehension strategies. But the second one, she's going to have a resource class to remediate specific skill areas so that she can be successful in high school and her post-secondary experiences. And I didn't list the specific skills because we already know that we need to work on those. So that's what we're going to start with, the symbols and traffic symbols and signs and public transportation. But as we go, I don't want to be so specific here that, because I'm going to add lots of other skills that we identify along the way to this area. So I don't want to make it so that that's so specific and I'm having to amend every other week. So yes for there. Were there goals, services, or activities for every post-secondary area? Yes, there are, because it says there are just or detailed explanations supporting that there are no needs. Well, we, on that page, if you remember, on page B, let me get back there, we said which ones had to be addressed with additional goals, services, or activities. We said that the public transportation did and the reading did, but so far she's good with the working. So we anticipate that she's going to be successful there. Was the student clicked yes for that. Was the student invited to attend the IEP meeting? I'm going to click back here and go to forms again, to the meeting notice, double check because that's compliance. That's what that matrix rubric is we're doing. Student one Mosier was invited. This is the meeting notice. It gets sent out to invite people to the meeting. So I'm clicking yes. Her name was listed on the meeting notice. And the last thing, the meeting notice requirement. This doesn't have a number letter combination beside it. Were representatives of participating agencies invited to the meeting where appropriate, or was it determined that it wasn't applicable? She's in her freshman year, and we haven't really started pulling in anyone because, like I said, she's pretty high functioning. She's got a lot of strong skills. She has a problem with reading comprehension. So at this point, we're not going to bring anyone in. Now, she's a freshman, and we might determine pretty quickly next year that she needs maybe something. We got to start thinking about something else community-wise. Like maybe she might need to, start like her work experiences, and we need more people. When we start the work experiences parts, Voc Rehab, if we needed them, we would bring them in. There's Job Corps of Iowa for students to help get them training in specific job areas. There's lots of other outside community organizations that we might want to include in this. In the place that I currently work, we're getting ready to think about like Project Search, which is a big transition program for students with disabilities. So it just depends on what we identify as a need for her. But right now, we haven't really identified a lot of need. She seems to be a pretty high functioning, even high academic student who has a reading disability. So we haven't started thinking of other people that we need to include. So we're saying, for now, we didn't need to invite anyone else, so we were okay. It was determined that we didn't need other agencies. So that is what I want you to be looking at as you're using this rubric that's put out by the Department of Ed to determine if these IEPs are in compliance. I wanted to go through that one with you with my IEP so you can see why I marked the things I marked. But you're going to be looking through another IEP now, and you're going to mark those rubrics based on what you're reading. So I just wanted you to, again, look through this again to see the difference, or to see not just how I wrote it and why I wrote it, but now why I wrote it so that it was compliant for the state.